We are joined right now by Nancy L Cohen. She is a historian, journalist, and author of Delirium: The Politics of Sex in America. Her writing can be seen in the LA Times, RollingStone.com, Playboy, and The Guardian, and many other places. Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So Nancy, let's get right to it. With your book, it's called Delirium: The Politics of Sex in America, and I mean, what we've been seeing with, I mean, just looking at the 2012 election, is sex in America is something that's a big issue with these politicians who would like to control the sex in America. I mean, one of the big issues in just this past election, like I said, was with Todd Aiken, with legitimate rape. I mean, there's a lot going on here, and it was pushed as this war on women that a lot of these conservative, Republican, right-wing politicians said, this is a fringe of our party. This is like the extremes. This isn't the party as a whole. But I mean, here we are, how many months out now from the election? And I mean, women spoke what they thought about Republicans trying to control them. And I mean, this war on women that supposedly does not exist is in full swing. And I mean, it's stronger than ever, I would say.
Yep, absolutely. You would think that the Republican Party would have learned their lesson with women voters in 2012, right? Obviously.
Yes.
And, we were told that the party was going to rebrand, that they were going to look carefully at themselves and come back with something better. Instead, we've got the same old stuff, maybe a slight change of optics until we got to this summer delirium of legislating against women. And, these people, they're like the zombies of American politics. They keep getting defeated. We keep being told that, they're done, that the Republican Party is going to, enter the 21st century. And lo and behold, 6 months later, they're back. And I think you hit on it exactly. They are fringe. They represent maybe, about 15% of the electorate. But these sexual fundamentalists own the Republican Party lock, stock, and barrel, and even sane Republicans can't escape from their grips.
Mm-hmm. So let's get right into what's going on now with what's happening in Texas.
Right. So I think probably most of your listeners saw the great filibuster by Wendy Davis against the really extreme law that would close all but 5 of Texas's women's health clinics. Some of them provide abortion, not all of them. It's basically a way of taking health care away from low-income women. Filibustered it once. Perry came back. They passed the legislation. And then probably something that most people don't know is that they have a couple more weeks to get even crazier stuff through. Mm-hmm. So last week, at the end of the week, they introduced a fetal heartbeat abortion ban, which means that from the moment a heartbeat can be detected, abortion would be illegal in Texas. Now, that happens at about 6 weeks, long before most women know they're even pregnant. So I think it just shows how extreme and out of step these Republicans are.
I mean, it's just amazing that, like you said, most women do not even know they're pregnant then. And I mean, obviously, by then, they will no longer be allowed to get abortions in Texas. This also, affects not only, women's ability to have an abortion, but and control over their body, but also just women's health. I mean, there's a story here right in front of me that 3 Planned Parenthoods in Texas are going to close because of A, the bill that Rick Perry just signed, and B, a bill that was effectively funding cuts to the Texas Women's Health Program that was passed by the Texas legislature in 2011. Out of these 3 Planned Parenthood clinics, only one of them actually even performs abortions.
Right. Right. I mean, that's, Texas has I think the first or second highest rate of the uninsured in America. And, most, all the uninsured women in Texas depend on these women's health clinics for their basic health care, to catch cancer early enough, but just, regular health care. They don't see doctors any other time of the year because they can't afford it and they don't have insurance. And, of course, Texas has also rejected Medicaid expansion. and as you noted, rejected federal funding for family planning. So they're estimating thousands of unintended pregnancies and births, and tens of thousands of Texas women now will not have health care thanks to this law that allegedly was passed to protect women's health.
I mean, that there is, to me, is the root of the issue. I mean, this is a war on women, yes. It's attacking women's health, women's rights. But to me, it's also an issue of classism. I mean,
Yes.
People who have the money aren't the ones who are going to be affected by these bills. I mean, these are effectively bills that are hurting, I mean, literally the poorest of the poor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And so I think, women advocates like me and many others, we are committed to defending women's rights over their bodily integrity and autonomy. But we're also a little tired of it. We'd like to move on to making progress on women's economic equality and progress on kind of life, work, family balance, to make our families stronger. And so one good development among all this nastiness in the Republican states is that in Congress, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand are both introducing basically women's economic empowerment agendas. Pelosi announced hers last week. Gillibrand's going to unveil hers in the fall. And it's really, attacking this class problem that you so rightly point out. It's calling for reforming the equal pay laws, raising the minimum wage. 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. It's calling for affordable child care, paid family leave and medical leave, universal pre-K. And so I'm really, kind of cheered by these developments that we're not just going to play defense, we're going to start playing some offense.
Hi, Nancy. This is Michael here. And I've been reading over a bit about Pelosi and Gillibrand's proposals, and I agree with you. They're incredibly important and actually kind of inspiring policymaking in some respects. And I'm wondering if you can I think there's sort of two interesting angles at this. One is they're both putting at the forefront this really broader understanding of what, frankly, you could call modern feminist politics or women's rights politics, which is at the intersection of all of these issues: class, opportunity, economic security. And then the corollary of that is that because, look, a lot of women are responsible for providing for families, right? Like, that's a reality of today's world. And if we get past these kind of, Neanderthal conversations on Fox, so that these issues are actually at the forefront of really anybody who's concerned about their own economic security and their own future. So in one sense, it's broadening the base of, quote, women's issues, and then also showing that women's issues are really everybody's issues.
Exactly. It's kind of like a gloss on what Hillary Clinton said back in '96. Women's rights are human rights are women's rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think if Democrats make these issues a priority, they're in some ways putting forward a New Deal. They're putting forward an agenda for the 21st century. And, all men under the age of 50, these are things that really matter to them, too. They want more time with their children. They want their, wives to have fulfilling lives, to be able to spend time with their children and have, a meaningful work and remunerative work in their life. So I really do think that if Democrats can stop just put the Republicans on defense a little. I mean, we're going into a fall where we're going to have another debt ceiling fight. So I think it's really important that we have Gillibrand and Pelosi's agendas on the table to say, hey, folks, they're holding us back, but we can really go forward if we can break through the, delirium in the Republican base.
To really push that this affects everybody, I think it's also important to push that it affects everybody everywhere. I mean, this isn't just a Texas issue or a red state issues per se. I mean, these bills are making its way across the country that affects everybody.
Right. So the Guttmacher Institute estimates that almost 500 restrictions on access to abortion, birth control, and sex education were introduced by Republicans in the first 6 months of the year. The number of law restrictions passed is the second highest in history. And, I just want to kind of go back to the title of my book, The Politics of Sex in America.
Mm-hmm.
The Republican who wants to be governor of Virginia, Cuccinelli, wants to outlaw oral sex. I mean, this isn't just about abortion. This is about, you control women, you control men. These people are obsessed with sex. They have hijacked our politics for really outrageous kinds of issues. People want to move on to the things that really matter, the economic issues, the environmental issues, the what are we going to do in the Middle East, things like that. But these nuts are kind of have, hijacked our politics.
The supposed party of freedom, right?
Yeah, freedom as they define it.
Well, I'm actually curious about that because I think though that there's some I'm not quite sure how to formulate this question, to be honest, because I see headlines like banning oral sex and this type of things, and it would seem like on its face, this is the policy agenda of some guy who's like harassing you for signatures so his like obscure, like Pilgrim Party can get on the ballot.
Yes.
And what I'm wondering is there's obviously some type of real emotional problems and control issues related to this type of policy agenda. And I'm just wondering if maybe on a slightly different track, like what is the psychology driving these policy moves, if you could speak to that? Because it seems to me that that's part of the reasons that Republicans can't rebrand. Because if you're out talking about, let's ban oral sex.
They can't rebrand because this is what they really believe. But this is basically the story I tell in my book, that these sex and women's and gays issues, it's not a distraction. It's not a sideshow. It's the main attraction for Republicans.
Right.
And the right really had no base until they followed really fundamentalist women who were organizing against equal rights for women into, they followed them, and I see this as all a reaction against the sexual revolution, feminism, and gay rights, and that we have to understand this kind of long 40-year history of how these fundamentalists worked their way up from the bottom to the top of the Republican Party to understand why we are here today. So a lot of it has to do with religion, but the religious politics didn't come about until people kind of freaked out about these fundamental changes in gender relations and sexuality.
I mean, we're seeing, to add to that, we're seeing in New Jersey, supposed, centrist governor who's going to reach out to everywhere. Everyone loves Chris Christie, but here he is for I think it's the fourth or fifth time cutting funding to women's health. And now there's Planned Parenthood locations in New Jersey closing this year.
Well, yeah. I know that he had vetoed the funding for family planning in the budget, and of course he's vetoed gay marriage. I think that shows you, do we really think that Christie cares, wants to defund family planning? No, but he has to. He knows that the gatekeepers of the party are these fundamentalists.
He has to, it's the base. It's their party, exactly.
And is it really even the base at this point? It seems like they have such control over the apparatus that if even a blue state governor like Chris Christie, who I personally, I think he is actually fairly socially conservative, so maybe that's, I think that sort of shows, like, and I think it gets to your point, Nancy, like, who's really in control here? It's not just like the base. They run the party. Yeah.
So here's a little fun fact. The Texas Republican state platform calls for outlawing consensual sex between minors, too. Really. So, I think you can get married in Texas at 15, but if you're unmarried, it's a criminal act to have intercourse. No, they haven't gotten that through, but it just shows you the obsession. And so, the path to the presidency for any Republican, far right or supposedly centrist like Christie, is through this group.
It's amazing to me because I mean this is the same party that will push gun laws don't stop gun violence, but here they are pushing these laws that are obviously not going to stop people from partaking in these sexual acts. It's not going to stop women from seeking abortions, but it hurts in the way of how these women will be seeking abortions. Women will still get abortions, but they won't be getting it in clean medical facilities with properly trained doctors.
Right, absolutely. And I think it shows that, the concern isn't really about abortion, although I think it's that, but it is about controlling women. Because the fact is that, if you look at the demographics of America, at times when we didn't have birth control or birth control was illegal and abortion was illegal, people got married younger, mostly because they got pregnant somewhere along the way. So I do think they think that, in some ways, sex destroyed America, and if they can clamp down on, if they can put the risk back in that, then they restore their Mad Men era.
Nancy L.
It's crazy. It's not going to work, but I think that's the logic.
Restoring the Mad Men era is the modern policy agenda of the Republican Party.
I think
that could not be better summarized than that.
In fact, if they started actually using that slogan, they might actually get extra votes than usual,
Yeah, because all those people who like the outfits on this show are a little confused about what it's really about.
Seems like a really fun time, says people who aren't, oppressed during that time.
Right.
Right.
All right, Nancy L. Cohen, thank you so much for joining us. Pick up her book, Delirium, The Politics of Sex in America. Her website, nancylcohen.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.